Well, hello there, humans. This isn't the video. Don't be alarmed. Do not adjust your TV screens. This is Bushka bringing you a message repatch 3.8. I've copped a lot of flack from numpties on the comments section about me being the great Satan, as per usual. Every time something happens that they don't like, I'm a sellout. And I've been selling out for a long time, apparently. I just want to know, I'm not worried about that. I've got big shoulders. But you're wasting your time. You're just screaming into the thin blue air. There are social media pipes out there that you can access and talk to the people who actually made the patch, and you can make your voice heard. But if you're too lazy to get off your butt and actually go and do that, and you just want to come here and pretend like yelling at me is going to fix things, then you're a child. And I'm not. I'm not going to be counterproductive. There's people that come here every single day for content. There's people that are coming to these equipment videos because they don't know much about the game and they need help with their equipment loadouts, and they don't have a lot of resources. They haven't played a lot of games and they can't afford to really get it wrong. So I'm trying to help them and give them a hand. And that's all I'm going to do on this channel. The motto of this channel is help the humans. And I'm going to do that the best way I possibly can, which is make content that is productive and worthwhile. I sympathize and I empathize. And I've said in all the videos that I don't agree with the timers and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of you don't care. You're just looking at someone to be angry with. And great. If I'm that person and I help you get through the day without punching the dog, go for your life. Like I said before, I got big shoulders. But if you really want to affect change in the world, then you've got to go looking for somewhere where your voice can be heard. And the comments section here isn't it. It's just not going to happen. So anyway, on with the video. And for those of you who are being productive, friendly human beings in there, thanks. Till next time. Well, very much. Let's do that again. Well, hello there, humans, bees, earthlings, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, and if you're lucky enough to be doing it too. I'm Bushka Blitz, and we're here today to talk about TDs, namely the tank destroyers that you'll be rolling out and about in patch 3.8, and why you'd be using particular styles of equipment for those tank destroyers. Bit of an issue with this one. Good old Bushkarino ran out of spare partarinos. And I haven't been able to do all the TDs that I would very much like to do with my own stuff, because I kind of went hog wild on my mediums and my heavies, and then I went to get TDs done and I went, well, bugger, I've only had a chance to do some of my turreted TDs and not much else. But that doesn't really make any difference. I'll be able to talk about TDs in a generic style and talk to why I'm doing... This is what I mean. Look, I ran out at the T110E4 just about there. I've done the heavies. I've done the mediums. We're going to do the tank destroyers now. So listen up and let's get started. If you're running TDs and you want to get your equipment loadout done, you have a lot of choices to make. One of the reasons why there's more choices than you'd expect with tank destroyers is there's a very, very big variety of TDs. You can break it down into your kind of DPM TDs, like your Object 263, your SU 101s, your your E25s. They're tank destroyers, but they also have very, very quick firing guns with progressively higher alpha, but it's still pretty much around where you're at for the tier for, say, a standard heavy gun or a medium gun, but it just fires it really quick. And then you have your TDs as you go up the line that become more and more based towards big 150mm alpha damage guns, and even right on up to the big daddy of them all, the Death Star, which rocks the 183mm gun, which is the biggest gun in the game. And because of the differences in just the style of the gun and then the performance in terms of mobility, like the E25 is a cockroach for a reason, and the SU-101 and the Object 263, they fly around, but the Jagdpanzer E100 is a monstrously slow and cumbersome beast that really doesn't fly around and relies on just one shot, and it doesn't have a turret. The 183 has a massive turret, and it's actually quite mobile in terms of traverse, but at the same time, it has other deficiencies, like its reload time is, you're waiting for a tax refund by the time, it takes that bloody long. So you can see there's tanks that have good armor, there's tanks that have no armor. And there really is this incredible diversity. Heavy tanks for me were the ones that had the most straight down the line loadouts. Mediums and TDs for me are the ones that have the most difficulty in making decisions. But let's get popping. Gun rammer. Run your gun rammer. Minus 7% to reload time. There are very few situations where I'd run a calibrated shells. One of the reasons being that even though you will be doing a lot of your damage at range in a tank destroyer, well, for a majority of tank destroyers, the 5% to penetration isn't really that important for most of them, because your penetration numbers are freaking fantastic. The T110E4, for instance, which is a standard TD with a turret at tier 10, which generally running the 155mm like the T110E3, you've got 295mm of pen on your AP, and if you want to switch up to APCR, you've got 375mm of pen. That is a huge amount of penetration. So they're not that important, but some tank destroyers fire a lot of high explosive. Now, you might have seen me talking about the Sense 7A1, the FE4202, and to a very much lesser degree the Conqueror, the British tanks. Whoops, I declined. I didn't mean to decline you. I accept everyone. I didn't mean to press decline. I'm so sorry. Who were you? Ask me again for being a friend. The British tanks run Hesh. Now, my loadout on the FE215B183 is 4 Hesh Shells. They have a penetration value right now with the calibrated shells of 231mm. Now, that's only 11mm more pen, but that's a lot. When you're going to penetrate a heavy tank frontally, getting through his lower glacis angled is going to be the difference between scoring a hit for 900 with a standard AP shell or possibly 12 to 1400 with a Hesh shell. And that 5% penetration difference is everything. You have a slow reload time. So that's a big choice to make. But if you're like me and you like high ceilings, low floors, where the potential is all about, being the biggest bang and being the biggest failure at the same time, then I'd go for that. But for most part, we're going to go with gun rammer across the board. The second part is, again, very difficult because you have tanks like the Grill, which has this tremendously... I don't think I have the Grill on this account. And this is my account. Anyway, not to worry. If you have a tank like the Grill or the Borsig or the Waffle Tractor, which has next to no armor on it whatsoever, then you are going to struggle when you get hit with a lot of high explosive shells with damage to your equipment, particularly your ammo rack and your gun. A lot of people will fire HE at the Grill frontally to try and penetrate it through the, well, not the mantlet, but just either side of the gun, and that will hit your gun and take the gun out. And that's a problem with any tank that gets a lot of HE fired at it, especially frontally like the Borsig, the Grill. You'll lose your gun module a lot of the time. The same thing happens when you're brawling and you're an SU-152 or something and you put a HE shell into someone when you're toe-to-toe. You'll often lose your gun and lose your gun module because of it. So you really want to be running 10% to the protection of modules and such, especially on those tanks. You could see that the crew protection one would work, and minus 10% to damage from ramming, but you get a lot more bang for your buck out of protective modules and, again, optics. I don't want to go into it again. I've done a whole video on why you take optics over camo net, but I keep getting the idea from people that, well, what about if you're firing and you're at the back and you're in camo net and you're perfectly still? Well, then camo net's better than optics because you can't see them with optics, to which I say you need to understand the mechanics. When you fire your gun in any tank, your camo rating, which is the number that is the coefficient that basically tells the game how far away you can be seen from. your camo rating drops to just about nil. So you get the camo net stays up, but you don't get the bonus to your total camo. You get the bonus to your current camo rating, okay? So if your camo rating is at 4% after firing the gun, down from like 20% when the camo net was up, before you fire the gun, the camo net would have given you 15% to your 20%. So you would be looking at, say, 3% extra. So you go up to 23%. When you drop down to 4% and the camo net's still up, instead of getting that, you get 0.6%. So you're at 4.6%. And that's nothing. So the camo net's not really helping you there enough to be of any value. Optics on everything. If you don't agree, that's cool. Go for it. Happy to chat. And as the meta changes or the equipment changes, I'm happy to be wrong. Let's talk about it. Moving up, for a tank like the T110E, the 183, your gun handling is so crap. It's important to maximize it. So you'd probably go enhanced gun laying drive every chance and vertical stabilizer, because realistically, you're waiting for that bloom to come down. That's the biggest issue with the 183 when you're brawling or when you're doing anything. The bloom is so huge and your reload is so long that you cannot afford to have a shot not go in. Like if you're running a Object 140 and your DPM is running around at 3,000 damage per minute, and you miss a shot, you're missing out on 310 damage per minute. So you're missing out on basically a tiny portion of your damage. If you're in a 183 or a Jagdpanzer E100 or any of those tanks and your rate of fire is like 3.24 rounds a minute running a gun rammer and you miss a shot, you're literally missing out on 30% of your damage per minute number, which when you're in a brawl, when it is just about dumping damage into them, is tremendously rough. So anything you can do to hit is good. And if you're playing your tank in a more aggressive manner, in like a 183 or something, then you're going to be running enhanced gun laying drive every time. Supercharge is brilliant, but you guys, if you're running a TD and you have good shell penetration numbers, don't worry about it. If you're running a tank like the KV2, Supercharge is pretty bloody nice. If you're running heat shells, or actually, no, you know what? On the KV2's AP, heat, and HE on its derp gun, heat gets no benefit from it. No, that's not right either. AP, yeah, it's a better form of AP, isn't it? Or is it heat? I can't remember. Good God. What have I got at tier 6? Have I got the KV2 in here? There we go. Yeah, it's that AP. It's so you get extra pen AP. So there you go. You'd probably run the Supercharge on that. And I'm considering the KV2 to be a TD. Tanks like the Van Helsing, which is just a mutant hybrid of everything. You're auto loader, so you go penetration just because you can't have enough penetration. And like, this is the other thing about TDs. If you've got such good penetration on your AP rounds, on your standard rounds, when you go to Premo, you've just got over the top penetration numbers. So you may actually go with something like Vents, which will give you a benefit on a tank like the Helsing on everything, and will really give you a sneaky benefit in something like View Range, where you not only get the 10% optics, you also get to roll with an extra 5.6 meters of view range, because you get that benefit to your cruise skills, 5% to all cruise skills. It'll help your reload. It'll slightly help your dispersion. It'll help your turret traverse, and it will also help your flat out traverse speed. So that's one for the autoloaders and odd tanks like the Helsing. That's really grand. And then again with the Helsing, it never hurts to have more aim time, but your shell velocity and penetration to decrease with distance may actually be worth getting on that, because it's got this very, very odd mechanic where it fires two shots basically at the same time, and the second shot actually suffers from a larger reticle bloom and is less accurate than the first shot. So if you are firing at range with the Helsing, minus 30% to the penetration decrease with distance when you're not hitting exactly where you aim all the time, would be a huge benefit. Any auto-loading gun that fires 2 shots at once would benefit from that. Moving onwards and upwards. So armor, it's always going to be the go. Get armor on pretty much everything. There's only a few, very, very few tanks in the game where I would go with the bonus to hit points, just because the armor is of no benefit whatsoever. Borsig's a chance of being one of those. The Waffle Tractor, the Grill, because their numbers are so low, you could go with hit points. But I mentioned this in the medium video. If you can get your armor to the point where angled, it will actually give you a chance at not being hit for a full HE roll from a 150mm gun, which will save you 400-500 hit points. Then I'll take that tiny little bit of insurance as a massive benefit over 50 hit points, like on this tank here. They need to increase the improved assembly up to 12 to 15%, in my opinion, to make it even worth looking at. And hopefully that gets done over the near future. So here's the rub. A lot of TDs are going to be sitting at the back sniping. That's fair enough, because some TDs, that's where they really excel. You're going to get TDs though, like the ISU 152, where you get multiple guns. You can actually have this tank set up running the 152mm, which is just grand. That has the huge big Derposaurus, like 960 Alpha, horrible dispersion, all that. Or you can run the 122mm, which is a DPM monster, an absolute DPM monster. 122mm D25, 1944. You've got 8.38 rounds at 400 average alpha. That is a lot of DPM, right? So if you're doing that, then you're going to be running a different loadout where you are basically going to be wanting to run the supercharge, because for all intents and purposes, that gun is going to pump a lot of shells out, and it's going to pump that out at a very fast rate, and it's not going to be the big alpha. If you're running a massive gun with horrible gun handling stats like the 152mm, you are going to want to land 640 alpha shots. You're going to be in a bit of a tough pickle, because you're going to want to improve that aim speed any way you can. And you're going to want to basically run enhanced gun lane drive and vertical stabilizer. But your dispersion is so crap. And if you're firing at any kind of distance with that gun, plus 10% to shell velocity and minus 30% to the penetration decrease with distance and refined gun handling, is really going to be quite helpful as well. For me, big alpha guns with big problems in gun handling, I'm going to be running vertical stabilizer and enhanced gun lane drive. For nice guns that, like the Grill, for instance, that has excellent gun handling, I'm probably going to run supercharge, and then I will run vertical stabilizer, because the Grill's gun handling, and it's got the most ridiculously amazing dispersion. So you don't have to worry about accuracy so much. What you have to worry about is bloom on the reticle when you're traversing the turret to get shots off. So there you go. And that's also to movement and turret traverse. So it's going to help with you whether you've got a turret or not. So there you go. That's the first real instance where you get to it and you have to make solid decisions based on the individual tank. This one is very straightforward. Enhanced armor, enhanced armor, enhanced armor, enhanced armor. Go with that. Improved gun control. Improved gun control. I'm not running for political office. Improved control. Again, much like the mediums, this is going to depend on the kind of tank you've got. If you've got a very slow, cumbersome tank that has a very tough time dealing with medium tanks, you're going to take your Traverse. In fact, across the board, the improved Traverse is nearly always going to be the best thing for you. Your main enemy is mobility. Medium and light tanks that go screaming around the map get behind you when you're in a non-turreted TD, and even in a turreted TD, get into positions where you simply cannot follow them with the gun because you can't track it fast enough, are really tough to deal with. They will nearly always have better traverse numbers than you. This will give you a huge benefit. Let's have a look at something like the T110E4. Your traverse speed goes up to 30.44 degrees a second. That's a huge bump. That's a really big bump for a tank that's going to be right up against it. Tanks like the T95, other tanks and other really slow, cumbersome things like the Jagdpanzer E100, they'll feel a huge positive from that as well. The bonus to engine acceleration, I don't really see it. It's good for certain tanks like the Object 263 or that particular line, which is all about flying around. And it'd be great on a tank like the Cockroach, which is already crazy mobile in terms of traverse and camo and everything else, to actually get up to that top speed much quicker. But for the most part, I think you'd have to go with improved control. And at the top, as I talked about, vertical stabilizer or refined gun is going to be so dependent on the kind of TD you are. If I was running a 183, you can see here, I've gone quite an odd loadout, but there you go. I'd probably go calibrated shells, enhanced gun laying drive, vertical stabilizer. If I'm running a grill, I'm running that, and vertical stabilizer. If I'm running, I mean, this is crazy. This is how hard it is to deal with. If you're running all kinds of different loadouts and setups, this is why I love this equipment thing. You've got 2 or 3 or 4 different variations on the same theme on the one combat power rating, depending on how you want to play your tank. At the top of the queue as well, I'd go with Toolbox again. Toolbox is just so valuable for anyone that gets HE spammed at it and loses modules. It's just so valuable. And then across here, consumable delivery system. Perma-tracking can be an issue, which is good across the board for repairing modules. If you put that one up, consumable delivery system. Repairing modules and that kind of thing is excellent. If you are worried about time on target and you're bursting adrenaline, then go for that. I mean, either of these is a good choice, and it just depends on your play style. If you're an up close like a T95 or anything like that, I'd probably go for the consumable delivery system. If you're playing a bit more of a back-end sniper, I'd go with that. If you're up close and pushing all the time, and you are like being aggressive, and you really want to be an assault tank, like you're running in an Object 704 or an SU-152, you might want to do that with the adrenaline. If I'm in a 183, I'd probably go with the adrenaline as well. But again, this is going to be so dependent on your play style. The ones that I can confirm you absolutely should have on all of them is optics and armor, and I'd be very close to putting that improved traverse up there, and the toolbox. The ones that you should have most are gun rammer, protected modules, and your vertical stabilizer. And then the two that are probably the most difficult options are enhanced gun lane drive or supercharge. And well, this isn't difficult at the top, but that's just a playstyle, lifestyle related choices. And the ones that I'd get first on the second line would be the improved control. The traverse is killer for you. It's absolutely killer. If you can get around to mediums and lights and deal with them better, you will stay alive for longer. And then I'd probably go the enhanced armor for certain tanks. But like, I mean, if you've got really good armor already, like the T95, that's going to be brilliant for you. So it's really important to get it. But if you've got really crap gun handling, and the gun handling is a real issue, and you're at range all the time, then you might want to get that. Or if you just got a big Russian gun with a 25-second aim time and a massive reload, and you don't want to miss any of your shots, like, you know, 183, then go with that. That's it, boys and girls. I hope you enjoyed that. Lots and lots and lots of options with TDs, walking through them there. Pay attention to how you feel your playstyle suits, and then make your own build up. Anyway, guys, hope you all enjoyed that. And if you've got any user comments, suggestions, disagreements, I know some people don't like the way I'm talking about armor versus hit points. That's great debate. Let's do it in the comments section. Until next time, look after your families, look after yourselves, and be nice to each other, and stay safe on the battlefield.